This is Remote Daily. My daily dose, your daily dose, our daily dose of inspiration.
Alex, I know nothing about how to drink right.
Okay.
I just, I'm even though growing up in a family that makes beer, I was always the one that wasn't really connecting with the drink. And I was sent by your lovely team 2 bottles that we will share in a second. But how can I have a good start into this today? What would you recommend for me to do first so then that while we do the interview, I can look like a sophisticated drinker?
Okay, ready? This is my trade secret. Just enjoy it. Listen, there is no magic. I know that, a lot of people, when they're tasting through wine professionally, they'll kind of talk through the nuances of the wine and they'll swirl. So I can give you that quick overview just so that you have that. And really, when you look at it, it's so that they get the aromatics out when you're formally tasting. So we have this sparkling, and I don't know if we want to chat about some of the wineries, but we are here to chat about building community and about inclusivity. So I thought we would have some fun with some wines that I'm excited about and that my team's excited about, if you're okay with that.
Yes, please. I know you choose your suppliers wisely and you take focus on diversity, on inclusion. You really look who's behind the business, not just the quality of the product. So what did you pick for me and in the fall that we will share with everyone? What is it?
Okay, so we're going to jump into Iris first. So, really, we're going to have the pleasure of indulging in 2 incredible wines. As Pride Month comes to a close, it just felt fitting to shine a spotlight on an area that remains relatively unrepresented within the wine industry. So LGBTQIA plus community is not huge within the wine industry, with conversations around affirmative action happening the last 2 days and beyond taking center stage. I thought it was essential that we acknowledge and celebrate diversity in all industries, and really including, the fact that a lot of the wine industry is traditionally male dominated, and it's taken a slow. It's been slow to embrace acceptance, to embrace diversity. Even myself, I've always typically been the only one in the room that looked like me. And so now that we're starting to see some change, it's really great, but there's always been a lack of representation. So Iris, I sent you, Felix, a sparkling, which I hope you enjoy with your wife this evening, and chill it, of course. And then I sent you a Pinot Noir, which I have to the right of me here. So we'll taste through both of them. I chose Iris in particular. It's nestled in the Willamette Valley of Oregon. And the really cool thing about this winery is their motto, which is their commitment to realizing one's fullest potential and continuously striving for excellence. And that's something that really resonated with me. And I also just love their wines. So their winemaker, Aaron Lieberman, who is a wonderful human being, specializes in crafting outstanding Chardonnay and Pinot Noir and sparkling wine, which is typically Chardonnay and Pinot Noir or one or the other. And beyond his winemaking prowess, Aaron himself is an active champion of inclusion. So he really has a very similar life motto, and morals and vision as I do, and I'm sure many of you within this community. So he volunteers with the Willamette Valley Winery Association's Equity, Belonging, and Inclusion Task Force to really bring in more equity within the wine industry and fostering inclusivity in the wine community. So the sparkling wine, which I very much love, I would like you to taste through it. I'm gonna show you how a pro tastes it, but you don't have to feel pressured. I want to see you do the swirl. And if anyone else has a wine glass, I don't know where you are. If you think it's too early to drink, it's never too early. But basically, when you're pouring through the wine, I typically do an all-purpose glass for sparkling or champagne or Prosecco. A lot of people will pour them in flutes. The reason so is because you can really get a lot of the nuances and the characteristics of the grape when you have a larger top here. So Felix, once you pop the cork, and I'm letting you do it because I've already opened mine, and I think that we should be celebrating you for building this incredible community and show. So I'm going to let you do the whole show of popping the cork and everything. So first you take the foil off and make sure that you put your thumb on that cork. Do not
I was wondering about that.
Nope, don't unravel the cork without putting your thumb on top and holding it. So hold it like this. Look.
Why not let it
Because you'll lose
tear a hole in the ceiling?
Lose your
eye. Oh, okay.
I do not want anyone to be injured drinking wine.
I want this. I'm moving this really close to the mic because that's, I think, the most important sound on my end today is to make that popping sound well.
So when you're taking the foil off and the cage, which is what you just undid, you hold it. And then now you can let go and pop it open. So try and do that as casually and cool as you are, and pop that open and see where it lands. We like to do it for fun. Yes, definitely be careful, Felix. We do this for fun at home. We'll pop the cork on the porch. The kids love the sound, and the champagne or whatever.
Okay, this is a premiere on Remote Daily. And by the way, before I do this, so yes, I'll be careful. Don't point it at your face. Thank you, John. You're always taking care of us. I appreciate that. He said before he popped it into his eye. I want to make sure that the jealousy that might arise, I saw that in the chat, Anne, that you all have seen what Liz just put in the chat. On October 6th, we're going to do this together. We thought about sending out boxes today, but we thought, no, let's take time to plan and bring everybody together. So on October 6th, we'll do this together, and there will be an interview on this show as well. I just wanted to make sure to get this out of the way. So please sign up and join us in October, and let's see how this sounds in your ears.
Yay!
What's that?
And yes, we don't want to leave anyone out. So we wanted to kind of talk through this. And then in October, we're all going to celebrate together as a community. So exactly. So now once you've poured, now you do the swirl.
Okay.
All right. So let's smell it. What are you smelling in your wine?
Fruits, definitely. Some berries, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
And some other stuff. I don't know. Some musty stuff.
Musty stuff. So I smell nectar.
Such a good smeller.
Nectarines. And peaches.
Oh, wow.
If you smell it, do you smell an apricot in there or a peach? So that's how the pros taste it and smell it. So once you do that and you swirl, you smell through it and you kind of talk through that. And it's something that we have had to do for our exams. So it's not something that I expect as you all sit with me at a table that we will chat through, but it's more when you're learning to speak the language of wine, when you're learning the different styles of wine and where they come from and their place. It's all based on weather. So there's, warm weather climates typically will have tropical fruit. Colder climates will have more of the citrus, or they'll have like stones. It's all still very subjective because when you think about it, it is smells that you recognize. So that's why when you said, what do I need to do to drink? I just want you to enjoy it. This is such a beautiful wine, and it does smell fruity. I mean, it's Oregon. So cheers to you.
To you, Alex, and to everyone out there, cheers. And whatever you have next to you, please raise the glasses and sign up for October.
Yes. So I essentially chose Iris wine, and, it was because he's such an advocate of inclusivity. And a lot of what I do and for my business, I'm sorry, Anne, we will get you wide. What I do for my business is really driving that piece of it. Oh, you skipped to the Pinot Noir. I get you. Okay. I know where your jam is. I will open that up too.
Skipped ahead. All
I
right.
will show you the bottle.
Thank you, John.
If you are in Oregon, it's actually nationally distributed. So, definitely try these wines. Like I said, the gay community is largely underrepresented in the wine community. And he's doing some incredible things there. And really, it's just good.
I thank you for saying that you always smell like what the sommelier kind of tells you. It's like, oh yeah, now I smell the roots and
How do
the
you spell the peaches?
peaches, and of course. And I really want to thank you, Alex, for making this happen today. We're so excited to work with you in the fall and maybe even do more together. You are, and everybody could just get a hint of that. You have almost 2 decades of experience in this industry, and you brought, so many people together since you have become an entrepreneur. So for the second half of this interview, just to dive into your story more, you were working in wine communications, and you were commuting into the cities like so many others from Jersey, raising your twins, which by itself, and I just saw Anne's expression change, by itself is a feat. I don't know how you do it, both of you, your partner and you, but you're raising twins while running a business. You decided to leave the corporate world to do that and really started from scratch. Why in the first place did you even do that? Like, what made you, as a person that was very successful in the corporate world, had a lovely young family, what made you make that leap and start a business from scratch?
There were a lot of factors. On the one side, personally, I was the head of communications and digital at a wine importer and distributor. And like I said, I was typically the only one in the room that looked like me. And for a time, I was the only woman in senior leadership as well. And I think there was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of travel. There was a lot of commuting. And I have 9-year-old twin boys now. They turn 9 July 17th. But I was traveling 60% of the time, on top of the fact that I was going in and out of Manhattan, commuting, and in a position where there wasn't a lot of diversity, and there was a lot of, in an environment in a wine industry that still has a lot of misogyny. And it was something where I would come home and not feel good inside, and be overwhelmed. And then on the other side of things, we were sitting, at home in the middle of lockdown, and I had gone to wine school. I have my WSET Diploma level, which is level 4. And I'd gone to wine school and met all of these amazing human beings who worked at all of these incredible Michelin star and beyond restaurants all over the world, and in New York and San Francisco and Chicago and Paris and London. And I'm glad you're home wine school, John. I love that. And these wonderful people were not able to work from home like we did. When you go into a restaurant, it's not like they can say, I'll be right back. So, they were all furloughed, and all the restaurants were closing. And my husband, who's in sales, was struggling with connecting with his customers and his prospects. Mm-hmm. And I thought, there's got to be something that we can do to drive that human connection that we all so craved during that time. It was a nightmare, and it's something similar to the smoke that we're dealing with. While Anne took it upon herself to apologize to the masses here, it really is something that everyone is going through together in their own capacity. And so it provided an opportunity to allow for human connection through wine. And as I started to see the business evolved, I said, wait a minute, we can do different types of food and beverage, because the best way to get to know people is around a table, and everyone should have a seat at the table. And so I started to evolve my business and speak to customers. And I said, well, did you always have, international employees? Did you always have remote employees? And the answer was always yes. The thing is that people don't realize is they think it's a new thing because the pandemic happened, that
right.
Remote is brand new. people always had a geographically dispersed team, and they never really got to socialize with them. And so when, month 2 came along, I was like, okay, we could do more than wine tastings, and I think we can reach a larger group of people. And so I started to build an infrastructure initially for Johnson & Johnson because they were my third client, and they're global. And so they were like, can you ship for women all over the world? We're celebrating women in leadership. And I said, not really. I'm doing this out of my guest room. But I told them I will get back to them in a day. And I did. And we built an infrastructure to deliver. And, we started small, 30 countries. My team laughs at me. They're like, Alex, please don't promise anything in Antarctica. People drink wine there, I'm sure. And then we started to expand and go beyond. And now we fulfill in 77 countries. And that's really the beautiful thing, is now everyone does truly have a seat at the table, whether we're all together in the same room or we're remote. Yes, Liz, I said 77 and still out of my guest room.
Do you have any guests still or there's just no family allowed anymore because it's all filled with boxes now?
Oh no, everyone is always here. People make fun because my team is always laughing. My neighbors stop by. I always have guests here drinking wine and testing out samples, and
Fantastic.
I want to hear feedback. So it's all about community, and that's really what's important to me, is that human connection.
And the love is coming through the chat here for you, Alex. Start small and 30 countries. What an entrepreneur. 77, Liz points out. And the socializing that Jörn is stressing is what you really enabled. And I love Ian-D's comment just saying, right on. Like, what a journey. Amazing. And Liz has a tiny bit of film for us that just shows your company culture with us. So Liz, if you want to take over the screen share for a second and take us into the world of Alex, here we go. A little glimpse into culture with us.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Alex Schrecengost, the founder and CEO of Virtual With Us and Culture With Us. And today we are going to go over how to make the perfect cheese board.
Break up that sugar cube. I like to smash it here. From there, we're just going to add 2 ounces of bourbon, the good stuff, right?
I'm Maggie with Virtual With Us, and this is the Cacio e Pepe experience.
Let's talk beer tasting. First, take a look at your beer and note the color and clarity, which can tell you a lot about the type of malt and brewing process used to make the beer.
Dive deep into why the love affair of chocolate and wine has always existed.
Can't wait to see you there.
Wow. And what's coming through to the video is, I think, the people that you enable to work virtually, they're all natural hosts, right? So you enabled these people to just elevate their craft and bring it to another level and to a global audience. What a fantastic feat. And I also want to say, you already brought it up, Women's History Month. You now organize around Black History Month, Latinx Heritage Month, API Heritage Month, Pride, of course, which we're celebrating this month, Juneteenth, Lunar New Year, Cinco de Mayo. So there's so much you are helping to elevate and to focus on. Is there, like you said, 77 countries, like, is there a place you just would love to ship to, but it's just impossible? Like, take us into the logistics and the geography of this beast that you're tackling every day.
Yeah. So, when we first started, my biggest thing is I'm the most curious person. So when I meet people, I ask a ton of questions. I want to know about your background, and my husband's the same. I want to know about your culture. I want to ensure I'm being respectful in every capacity. So that was a large component of building this infrastructure out. It was determining, okay, what countries allow alcohol, for example, what countries are adamantly against alcohol. My head of creative is in Pakistan. And so I was like, can you just sit down with me for a couple of hours and give me a little bit of an overview on what we can offer, what different teas. So we do flowering teas and coffees. And so in building that out, it was really understanding culture. and understanding that these global teams, not everyone is going to want to do the same exact thing, but they do want to connect with their team members. And the really beautiful thing that I saw at one of our events, many of our events, but one of the first was there were two employees. They had worked together for 15 years at the same organization, one in India, one in New Jersey, and they had never met each other in person. They hadn't even really Zoomed before because Zoom wasn't a huge thing prior to the pandemic either. So it was just quick conference calls and just understanding best practices. They started crying because they got to enjoy each other's company. So things like that really sat with me where I was like, okay, we can still do this. Not everyone has to have the same thing, and they shouldn't. And so that's how we initially built our offerings. It was to understand the culture where we were fulfilling. And then with countries, you know, there's restrictions in certain places within Africa, for example. Even within the US, there's no alcohol allowed within Utah. There's no shipping to Utah. So it's understanding the culture of that state alone and being respectful of them and saying, okay, what are the alternatives? What do you prefer? And there's people in Utah that are like, I want to drink anyway. So it's like, okay, we'll send you a cocktail, or you can make a mocktail. But that was really the biggest component of building out this organization and being able to ensure that everyone truly does have a seat at the table. I would like to fulfill more throughout Africa. I would actually like to explore more of South African wines in general. So that's something that the team and I have been working on, and speaking with the Wines of South Africa team to see if there's a way to provide visibility around people of color, around a lot of the winemakers. They're not as well known within the United States. So that's a dream. And obviously, you know, John was commenting and joking, but Antarctica, I was like, you know, I just want to see if I can deliver a box there.
And you already have offerings in the chat. Ian D just said we can link you up at the State Department to elevate the operation. I saw Kyoko also nodding when you talked about the inclusivity. What was the farthest you have ever shipped? Like, what is the most remote location you actually made a box arrive at?
So there was an island, and I apologize, I don't remember the name of the island, remote in Asia. And I still remember we have a fulfillment center in Hong Kong, and they said, Alex, you don't understand this. We can't just UPS there. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm sure there's a way to get something. Like, there are people that live there. Obviously, we have someone's address. How can we get it there? And so we're chatting with customs and figuring everything out. And there's this incredible human who volunteered to take the package on his boat. And we delivered it via a small boat, and then a little tiny plane to this person. And he said, how on earth did you get me my box of wine? And he was there visiting family. He works in Hong Kong, actually, but he was there visiting family. And he was like, this is such a remote place. No one has been able to get anything here ever. And I was like, we were determined and on a mission, and I wanted to make sure that you were included. So we tried our best. And at worst, it wouldn't have worked out, and we would have said, you know, we're really sorry, you're on a remote island. But we made it happen, and I'm very forever thankful for that individual. Keiko is the person's name, who didn't know me at all, was on WhatsApp with me, and saying, I'm going to make this package deliver, and taking pictures of what it looked like, and said that they printed out the note for me. The fact that, you know, again, community and bringing things together, and really understanding the culture. And they were so giving and kind and didn't know me at all. I'm a random person in New Jersey.
And it brings me to the two comments that we have here from Anne and Adam in the chat, who basically chime in on the same thing. Good wine is amazing, but the connection is what really matters. It's a ritual. It's simple, but very effective. It makes you bond immediately. And it doesn't really matter whether it's the alcohol in there or not. It's just the fact that you share something that has a sensory, makes an impression to your senses and connects you. And as Adam said, the legal, the cultural considerations make it more complicated, but you're still making it work. And you even make it work in the most remote areas on this planet. you have supported, and Liz was so kind to pull the numbers, 68 female sommeliers over the last year, partnered with 40 plus businesses from around the world, from vendors to suppliers to artists to artisans who are part of underrepresented communities. It's just amazing how considerate you are in building all this. So how do you find, like, I mean, of course, the companies, they create these challenges for you to sometimes ship it in remote areas, but how do you actually find the partners that you work with? Because you seem to find people that are not seen often and are underrepresented. So how do you find them?
So that was the fun part. You know, when I was starting to build out the infrastructure, my husband and I think we spent all of our 20s and most of our 30s just networking with anyone and everyone and traveling. We traveled a lot for work, and we would meet friends, people just traveling as well for work, people that were just kind of digital nomads, if you will. And so it provided an opportunity for us when I needed to build out. I called upon that community and all of those friends. And it's interesting. Something I had said recently in a speech was network, but not just to network because you find your people. And so I found a lot of my people, and I was able to tap all of those folks and say, hey, do you know somebody in Japan? Do you know somebody in, you know, France? Do you know? And so in utilizing the network and kind of having like the telephone game, it was hilarious because somebody would say, I don't know them, but my friend and my uncle. And so I would chat with somebody and they'd say, you know, my cousin's cousin has a wine shop and she's a single mom in this city, you know, can you work with her? And once I start working with them and I see how incredible they are and I get to know them, they're my people. So we haven't really switched over vendors. We do bring in new products all of the time, but I'm fully committed to our suppliers and artisans, and I feel they're part of my family. You know, I've invited all of them to my house, which is why there's always wine here and beer and cider, and people randomly show up. So if a neighbor walks in while we're on this call, ignore.
I see.
But it really provided and expanded on our community of people. And now we have friends all over the world. And it was interesting when we were fulfilling in India, that was probably the most complex. We had a friend who works on our website, and their little brother's girlfriend's cousin had a retail shop. And they said, do you mind if we introduce you? And I said, well, I need somebody in India. And that's how that started. So it really was a global game of telephone with adults.
We'll talk about facilitation now. And in order to get us started, let's do it like John and go to the Pinot Noir. So why did you pick that for me? And I'll say it again, in the fall for us.
So again, this is Iris Winery. And, you know, I wanted to showcase two of their wines because I really love that Aaron is an active champion of inclusivity. And I also just love Pinot Noir from Oregon. Some kind of follow the format and the winemaking style of French Pinot Noir. So you've got the like very light berry. So with this one, it's just so beautiful. It smells like cherries and blackberries and plums. And it was something that, you know, I really enjoyed to drink, but it's not too heavy. And it's got this beautiful fruity essence. It's got well integrated acidity when I tasted through it. And I thought this could be a really nice wine to have on a Friday evening with whatever you're ordering with your family tonight, Felix. So that's why I recommended it. And it also is a great fall wine. And it goes good with Halloween candy in case we want to do that in October. But that's why I chose it. So I hope you all like it. I hope you all go out and support the winemaker, Aaron, and the winery. It's Iris Winery. But that was why I chose this wine in particular. What do you think about it, Felix?
Cheers. Cheers, everyone. Oh, wow. Yes. It's like butter. Very, very pleasant. And John remotely says, great choice. I agree with you, John. I want to ask you, because Pinot Noir, I mean, you know, there's alcohol in the game here. Facilitation is not always easy when there's alcohol.
Yeah.
And I guess that counts for in-person and remote. what's can you share any crazy things that happened during virtual with us or culture with us shared drinking events?
Oh, well, I'll talk about some crazy delivery first. So we've had in the winter where wine has been frozen. And then we also in the summer have wine that explodes, both in the winter and the summer. So that's always a ton of fun because you're like, oh, sorry, we're going to send you more wine. And then, some of the really cool moments have been when we've added activities. So we do dueling pianos and wine, and watching people drink through 3 bottles of wine and then going into dueling pianos with their coworkers is the most amazing thing to ever exist. And you and I need to do it, Felix. It is the best, but just seeing how happy everyone is, but the competition, it's like, I want this song. And you get to go in and request songs to each of the dueling pianos. Exactly. Piano and piano. John, I'm hiring you for my marketing. But it's incredible seeing the dynamic, seeing everyone cracking up and smiling. And so it's a lot of fun. We had one client decide that they were going to saber, and they had never done it before. Nobody got hurt in the process, thankfully. They had it at the right temperature. It's got to be really cold, the champagne, for you to do the saber. But they crushed it without cutting off their finger, and I'm very proud and impressed. It's not something I would ever encourage on my tasting events, of course, but it was something that they wanted to do, and they had a saber from a previous wine event that was given to them. So
just to understand you right, because I obviously don't know much about this. Sabering means you open the wine bottle with a sword?
Yeah. Yep. So
wow, where do you have to actually hit the bottle in order to do that right? Just in case anyone is feeling this right now.
Please don't.
And wants to try.
Nope, not encouraging that. Not this morning, but right here. And it's got to be at the right temperature. So I can share instructions with everyone. I've only done it once myself. I'm also tend to be very clumsy. I think my husband's afraid I'll lose my fingers, hand, arm, any of those things.
John is really paying attention right now. So we'll see who from the community sabers first. But I think what John Patton put in the chat, when there's no wine, there's no love.
Sure.
It's such a great phrase, and it accounts for sabering as well. Saber with love. If you have to do it, then please be careful. So going to...
No, Liz. No BYO saber. I love it.
The new remote daily show, bring your own saber. I wanted to ask you about community in the final part of our show today. You see so many companies from the inside, like so many teams, so many people, so many distributed workforces. And when we ask you in the prep call, what the challenges that you see from like in this new hybrid era, you started laughing and you said this is the year of flailing. I love that word. Have you seen anybody who has it down? Like, seriously, have you learned anything from big teams or big corporates where you say, they got it?
There's a lot of my customers are really doing a good job in trying to learn, which is all that we can ask for. Some folks are getting there. I think the biggest component is there are a lot of large organizations that thought every single person would come back every single day. And then they went and hired people in other states. And are you expecting those employees to move to the major city where your corporation is? Are you expecting them to just completely leave their livelihood, their home, and just uproot? And then on the other side of things, you have to look at the different demographics of people. Obviously a young, recent graduate, yes, they want to go out for happy hours. They want to build that camaraderie. They want to go into the office. They still might not want to go in every day. I have a very young and incredible unicorn team, and I call them digital nomads. I have sometimes, one of my operations events person was working from Hawaii. I didn't even know she was in Hawaii. My rule is, as long as you have Wi-Fi and are respectful of your work hours and you're getting your work done, really, I'm respectful of your space and how you want to live your life. And I think there's a lot to be said for people that have a home with children, if they're taking care of elderly parents. For myself and my husband, it's really cool that we get to see our kids off to school every day and get a bunch of our work done and actually shut down at a reasonable time. We were in this era of burnout where it was like, oh, it's completely unacceptable that you shut down at 5 and you should be working until 8 or 9. And then during the pandemic, I think there was a lot of confusion of when you did shut down. It's like, oh, should I be working at 11 p.m. at night? Should I be working at 4 o'clock in the morning? Like, what do I do? Is it regular hours? But now people are starting to get into a more comfortable stride of, I'm getting out and walking around. I'm going to be healthy. I'm not going to sit at my computer. I'm not going to have a burnout. I'm going to have a Zen moment every day. I'm going to spend time with my family and do a game night. And I see more organizations starting to understand and respect that more as they start to look at the employees that they have and not wanting to have people leave and quit and having to use resources all over again to hire good new people. You don't want to lose good employees.
Any names you can share? Any companies that you work with where you say, pay attention to what they're putting out there because they are ahead?
So, from an internal perspective, I really love and respect what Penske Trucking and Johnson & Johnson are doing for their internal teams for culture building. They're really, really respectful of employees, whether they're in the office or working remote. And those two organizations are orgs that already had a global, or rather even a national infrastructure where they did have people everywhere. And they never necessarily had everyone in one place at one time. So I'm seeing them getting creative with the activations and programs that they're doing. And it's really beautiful to see. And it's something that I feel that they've done a very good job at. And then on a digital side, Meta is trying. I know Google had a stint where there were a lot of issues during layoffs, but I do see them trying. And there's, the higher level folks that are like, you have to all come back into the office. You have to come back to our campus. But then you have the managers proactively in the office or remote saying, I care about you and I don't want to lose you as an employee. And you're such a great resource. You're a wonderful talent. And let me do this for you. So I'm seeing a lot more of activities to show appreciation. Many of the organizations that we work with, like the Metas and Salesforce and J&J, they all do tie in culture too, which I really respect and love. I'm seeing them, diving into that cultural calendar and cultural awareness. And as I'm building out packages with them, they're more open to what we're sending, and they've always been.
John was just asking in the chat. Little reference for the Seinfeld fans, whether you have a Penske file. But who thought that a truck? I to be honest, like that goes against the stereotype of a trucking company to be so considerate of culture and hybrid work. Really interesting to learn from you about that, and kudos for you to having built community for all these companies. Before we close, Alex, do you have an advice for us for Remote Daily? How can we become better at building community?
I think the biggest thing, you guys have done an incredible job of being open to allowing people to come and be in a safe space. I felt comfortable as soon as I walked into this virtual room. So continue doing what you're doing, but I believe that if there's an opportunity for an open forum beyond the chat where there's like a Q&A and everyone, I would love to hear everyone's beautiful voices conversationally. That would be a really cool thing. And that's the biggest advice I would give to this whole community in general, is that to network. And I know you guys all know that, but network with and find your people, because as I said earlier, when I needed it, everyone kind of came around and said, how can we help? What do you need? So thank you so much for letting me be a part of your community. And I'm excited for October.
Yes, because this is what we're going to do in October. We're going to talk to each other, with each other, and we can't wait to host you all. And we will ship, whether you're on a remote island or in the middle of dusty Manhattan. We will get that wine to you, we promise. And today was just a little tasting, a little teaser for what is going to happen. And if you can switch your camera on right now and share some love for our amazing guest today on Remote Daily, please do so. Alex Schrecengost, it was such an honor to host you. This is your little virtual glitter coming with lots of love from all around the world, from this community.
Yeah.
What would you like to leave us with, Alex? Maybe there's a way we can support you. Maybe you have a life mantra you want to share, anything that, or an announcement you want to make, anything that you would like to share before we part ways today.
2 quick things. One, we didn't get to taste Cool Cat, but it embodies what I feel this community is. And the founder, Rocco, is part of the LGBTQIA+ community. He is also a Black man. So, and really created this brand to welcome all races, all ethnicities, genders, sexual orientations, and to really bring culture back. And so my biggest thing that I leave you with is to love the spark, the beautifulness of diversity that enriches our world, and to really be respectful of inclusivity and respect and kindness, and just really embody acceptance overall. I think that's the way we have to move forward, and it's going to take a long time. It continues to take a long time, but I hope one day we can get there. I have to believe that we will all be accepted at one point or another. So thank you.
Well, looking at the news, this couldn't be a more timely call to action. Thank you, Alex. And thank you for being such an amazing guest today. I loved sharing this with you, and I'm looking forward to Cool Cat and everything else you have on the portfolio. Culture With Us is an organization that we will partner with in the future, and we invite you all to kick it off in October together. Cheers to you. You were an amazing guest. Let's all go off mute together and wish each other and Alex a happy and healthy weekend. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Cheers, everyone.
This is Remote. Remote.